Hello and welcome back to this series on the most important basic drum exercises. Today I want to share with you a great trick that will make you much better at decoding anything you are trying to learn while improving your coordination, timing and musicality, making you a more independent musician on the drums. And by the way, if you're a drum teacher, you should definitely watch till the end, because I will give you a great tip on how to use this method in your lessons, especially in a group. But just before we start, I still have so many great exercises up my sleeve that I want to show you. And so that you don't miss anything, you should definitely subscribe to this channel and also activate the notification bell. So here's a short drum break, and in the meantime you can subscribe and activate the notification bell. So let's start right away. When we're practicing something new, we tend to go through it very slowly at first. That's not wrong. This is one of the most important basic principles of learning. First, understand exactly and practice the exercises slowly, the movements accurately. But playing slowly is not always good, especially for us drummers. I made a whole video about this claim. I'll link that again here and in the description as well. We drummers, especially in a band, mostly have the job of keeping the pulse, the beat, most of all. And we should always train this ability. That's why you have to find a balance between training your accuracy when learning something new and this important quality of always keeping the tempo. And if we go through a groove very slowly, note by note, or maybe play a short section first and then let the rest of the bar just go, then we don't stay in the flow. We don't get into a flow at all. There is a way that will help you keep the beat while also training your independence at the same time. Namely, we play all the parts individually, independently to the pulse. So to a metronome, to your counting out loud, or both, which is the best idea. Every part or voice usually, but not always, means every limb. The hi-hat voice, for example, is sometimes played with a combination of hand and foot. Let's say you want to practice a relatively difficult groove. You could start by just playing the hi-hat alone to the metronome, or counting, or preferably both together. Then you only play the bass drum to the pulse, and then only the snare drum, including all the ghost notes. That is difficult because the ghost notes in particular are often dependent on the hi-hat, because we think about when exactly do we play in between, when exactly do we play together. But you can already see from the choice of words that it depends on each other. But this is exactly what we don't want. We want to play the drums as independently as possible. And if you're able to play each voice separately to the pulse, then your limbs are truly independent. Try this. It will take some time, maybe even a few days, because it is difficult and a new way of practicing. But the result will speak for itself, I promise you. Record yourself before and after. You will sound so much more confident when you play like that. When each limb is playing independently from the pulse, so the groove ensues from it as a result. If you play dependently, it will sound lopsided, because one limb always has to rely on the other, so it can never pull its weight completely. Like a small group finding its way where only one has the map. They will falter constantly. But if everyone knows the way, the group can move quickly, even if one member is distracted, because the others can keep going. Such a group will make a very confident impression. And when your limbs are playing independently to the same pulse, you sound a lot more confident overall because you have 4 pillars, not just one on which the others are depending. Incidentally, I got this tip from Stefan Schütz's book Fundamental Concepts for Drummers. I can highly recommend it, and for me it was really an incredible before and after experience. So be sure to try playing each voice by itself until you can really control it to the pulse before playing the whole groove. This concept has so many benefits and you train so many skills at the same time. Your timing, of course, because you have to count and listen much more precisely, especially when we play syncopated rhythms. For example, ghost notes on the 16th note offbeat. So you're training your hearing because you're not dependent on the other limbs, but only on the sound. Otherwise, you could just notice after this hi-hat stroke comes the snare drum, then after that 2 bass drum strokes, and so on. Now you really need to know exactly where in the measure this or that stroke is. And that's why I said at the beginning, you can use this trick to decode every groove, because then you reveal what's actually happening there. You understand the inner structure of what you want to play. And very important, with this method, one often finds errors. I keep noticing that. I think I can play something, but somehow it's not going smoothly, something is off. And then I just play the individual parts to the metronome and I realize, I'm always too early, or I'm always too fast, or my hand doesn't even know what to do here. Then I pick that passage, practice it until it works. Then I just practice the whole section or the whole groove with just that voice, and then I put it together. And every time I notice that it runs so much cleaner. So like many of the principles I present to you in this series, it's not just an exercise, it's also a troubleshooting tool. It is therefore an indicator and the solution at the same time. And it has another advantage. You're not only more independent and autonomous of the movement and more confident in your sound, but if you practice in this way, you not only practice this one groove, because if you can control the individual voices independently of the pulse, you can, to the pulse, you can also change them. Now that one limb is no longer dependent on the other, you could add variations without affecting the other voices. You could also just play one of the voices softer or louder. This is what Benny Greb calls practical independence, because it is a very effective way to use your independence to sound more musical. You can adapt any groove in a practical and suitable manner. You can take the whole thing to the extremes if you like. I did it once before a tour. I practiced our complete live set, all 22 songs that we were playing at the time in this way. So I played each song 4 times. Once with the right hand only, then my right foot only, then the left hand and the left foot only because I play the hi-hat with my left hand, and then everything in combination as usual. I wanted to know if I really understood everything I was playing, or if some things were just played sloppy because I could not control them yet. I really wanted to be in total control of everything and get every note in its right place. And in my experience, that's exactly what I've achieved, whether it ended up sounding better or not. The audience has to decide that. But I felt a lot more self-assured and confident with what I played. This is of course the extreme version. Try it out first with a groove or just a part of the song that you are currently practicing. A little slower of course at first. You can't practice at the original tempo right away because you have to practice practicing this way first. Especially the offbeats, maybe the ghost notes on the snare drum are hard, but it's very valuable to be able to control them. You become more independent, you have better timing, you sound more confident, and you improve your hearing again. And now, as promised, finally a tip for all drum teachers. This exercise is great to do in a group, especially when practicing something difficult. Maybe the group has decided on a song that they absolutely want to play, but that's also very hard. Then you distribute the voices among the students and turn on a metronome. Everyone counts out loud, and each student only plays one of the limbs, first individually, and the others join in, so that the whole groove is always played. But not everyone has to play everything. Everyone only plays a part, and then you maybe make combinations of two. Everyone only plays two voices, and you can also try to rotate it, maybe even without a break. This can be very challenging, but very funny and a very engaging game. This is how you keep the students in the flow, in the best learning state mentally. In my experience, this is a great way to develop something in a group. If you were to force me to name just 5 of the most important drum exercises, this one would definitely make the list. Try it. It's not something you do once and then forget. This principle I just explained, you should take out of your bag of tricks and apply to whatever you are practicing when you need it. I wish you a lot of fun and a lot of progress with it. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.